The Wonderful World of Darklords. The Peddler's Tales. Don Karnage. This letter is dated the day before the expedition to Dathomir. Enclosed, a red stone and an invoice for 2,000 gold pieces. Afra wanted to go straight from Dathomir to the border, so before we traveled there, we made a stop to refuel the Archangel and to pick up any final supplies we might need before leaving the Outer Rim. The refueling station in question was a seedy establishment called Louis's Place, which was apparently a popular haunt for pilots and captains and navigators of all sorts. In this case, that turned out to be a problem, as Afra took one step inside and immediately stepped out again, muttering, "Poodoo." "What?" I asked her. "There's a guy in there I need to avoid. He cleaned me out in a game of Sabak a few months back, and I may have put more in the pot than I actually had at the moment. A little more, just a couple of 10,000. I think he would have cheated." "What am I, an infant? Of course I cheated." "He also cheated. He's really good at cheating." She briefly described him for me, then said, "Go in there and keep him busy for me, will you? He'll talk your ear off if you let him. Think of it as local color for that thing you're writing. Just don't tell anyone you're here with me." She tossed me a coin. "Oh, bring me a jet juice. Nobody makes it like Louis." I caught the coin out of the air. "Is there anyone you aren't hiding from?" "I'm not going to be hiding from this guy for long. I'll pay him back as soon as we finish this job." I gave her a look that let her know exactly what I thought of that assessment before heading inside. Louis's Place catered to a slightly gentler clientele than establishments we had stopped by on, say, Tatooine, while the criminal element was certainly present, as evidenced by the fact that there was apparently a notorious pirate enjoying Louis's drinks. It was clean enough to be a destination for wealthy youths who wanted to go slumming. I kept my hand on my purse, but I did not feel the need to look over my shoulder every few moments. It was easy to spot the fellow that Afra had described, drinking and carousing with his crewmates, and I made my way over to his table. "Excuse me," I said, "but you couldn't possibly be Hondo Onaka, could you? The Hondo Onaka of the Brethren Court?" Onaka met my eye and gestured to an empty seat at the table.
Come, sit down. I see my fame has preceded me."
I sat. "You're a long way from Flint's archipelago. What brings you out here?"
"As are you, my friend. What brings me out here? A wondrous crystal of incredible power. How I found and lost this crystal is a tale of danger, daring do, high adventure. A tale I will be happy to share, but oh, my throat is so dry." Welcome to Wonderful World of Darklords. I'm Tom.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Kris.
And we're discussing how to convert Disney movies to Ravenloft domains of dread, except sometimes we can't. And when that happens, we have the Peddler's Tales. Today's tale...
Don Karnage, who is not a Star Wars character, so...
Amazingly, magically.
So since doing Talespin and Star Wars was your baby, honey,
yes,
why don't you...
So there's a whole bunch of levels of nonsense happening here right now. And I kind of
I love you and I love your nonsense.
Multiple levels of nonsense running at the same time in my head.
You do.
So this Peddler's Tale, we are brought to you as a special feature for our Star Wars Summer Series, which we hope you are enjoying. If you are joining us for this one initially, very weird decision, but welcome. You really love Talespin, and I appreciate that about you.
It's a sign of good moral character.
Yes, indeed. And we are doing this Star Wars-inspired Ravenloft domains, and one of our basic premises of this Star Wars-inspired set of Ravenloft domains is they actually kind of share a common, like, geographic space that they all had. They came from the same origin point of some world out in the D&D multiverse that was an archipelago. So we're not doing Spelljammer, we're not doing space. We're doing an archipelago of islands with a kind of Eberron steampunk level technology. So you got like little ornithopters or the sea duck flying around.
Or the Iron Vulture.
Or more importantly, the Iron Vulture. So we were even talking about this concept of you could have airships and islands. And Rachel mentioned something about, like, you could actually do Talespin. And yes.
You jumped on that like Steve Rogers on a grenade.
Yes. Indeed. Our kind of imagining, our conversion of Star Wars as a setting to this D&D world is Talespin, basically. Mm-hmm. Only the planes are a little less real-world airplane and a little more like Wookiee ornithopters, kind of weird wooden steampunk ornithopters or steampunk ships. We're kind of leaving it to individual DMs if they want to have air travel or sea travel. But either way, if you're doing air travel, Talespin.
Talespin. So, yeah, we know, Kris, you're the same, age demographic as we are. Did you grow up with Talespin? I don't know if we've ever talked about Talespin.
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent.
I I want to do a bit here where I'm like, what's Talespin? This has all been a horrible mistake. But no.
I couldn't do that to Baloo.
No, I loved Talespin growing up. It was always one of my favorites. And when you mentioned putting it in this world and connecting it to Star Wars, it makes all the sense in the world. For me, it's so much of the same things that appeal to me about Star Wars as an adventure setting without a lot of the baggage that kind of would direct me away from playing Star Wars per se. And so, yeah, I was all in on this idea, especially because I think the pitch to me focused on Don Karnage. And I know we're going to be talking a lot about Don Karnage. I think he's in particular a great addition because he actually he brings something that Star Wars doesn't already have from Talespin. Do you know what I mean? We certainly have our share of down and out pilots and CD bars and things in Star Wars, but I don't think we really have a Don Karnage. And Star Wars nerds can correct me, but I feel like he's something new.
I will jump on that grenade, and I will say yes, there is a lot of shared character DNA with Hondo Ohnaka.
Don't dad us, Robin.
Don't dad us. But Don Karnage is much more flamboyantly theatrical.
Yes.
At no point, and I have seen all of Clone Wars and Rebels and the video footage from the Galaxy's Edge Millennium Falcon ride.
I love you very much.
I do not believe at any point he leads his crew in a diegetic musical number. He has them practice and rehearse a musical number about being pirates. And indeed, to the best of my recollection, there is no canon Star Wars pirate captain who does a musical number. So there you go.
Yeah, the only diegetic musical numbers I can think of are in the holiday special, and that's not canon. And none of them are by pirates.
Yes. So, Don Karnage, he's so great. And we have a little bit of a push and pull here because, yes, Don Karnage is so amazing, and he is absolutely perfect for Star Wars, but in general, the whole setting in Talespin is also so perfect for Star Wars because fundamentally, Talespin is the weirdest freaking show that there's ever been.
It is the weirdest freaking show.
Disney made a lot of very weird shows in the 90s, and this is the weirdest.
What if Goofy were a suburban dad?
Yeah, what if you were just a dad? What if a Batman was a crazy duck guy?
It's just the stock opening, but you were saying earlier, except sometimes we can't. I don't, this is the first time that I can recall in a Peddler's Tale where I'm I think you could. I don't, I'm not, I'm not mad that we're doing it this way, but I feel you could turn this into a domain. And that's part of the reason that maybe this episode doesn't need to focus wholly on Don Karnage is because almost he's, he wouldn't make a perfect Dark Lord, but in addition to that, he's just overshadowed by the fact that the whole setting really works. And if you chose to develop it, if you chose to just flesh out everything, I think you could make it into a full blown domain. The only challenge would be kind of finding a center of it, because it is everything kind of works together, there's no one kind of standout character of the domain is about this character fundamentally.
Right. Yeah. Deciding whether your Dark Lord would be Don Karnage or Shere Khan. There's not an obvious Bill Cipher kind of.
Or even Demona, Gargoyles has so many great villains, but Demona is so much the axis mundi of the whole story of the Gargoyles.
Yeah.
It's so much centered around
the whole
Demona.
Story is her fault.
Yes, exactly. There's no one that every sort of major plot event kind of is their fault in Talespin. And I'm wondering, in our notes we have a little thing about what is Talespin, and I'm wondering if anyone's listening to this that doesn't know what Talespin is, because that's a weird choice.
So,
but it's probably worth.
Yeah, looking at our demographics on YouTube, our average listener is 5 to 10 years younger than us, so it probably is worth going over Talespin. Yeah.
Okay, and I said a very big thing a minute ago, which is Talespin is the weirdest show Disney did in the 90s. And I'm just gonna, for you imaginary, millennial, pure millennial, hello, listeners, thank you for listening to us on YouTube. So you had the characters from the Jungle Book. So Baloo and Shere Khan
And King Louis.
But
not Bagheera.
And they were in a world of like 1930s Pacific Island aviation. And some of you like, no, seriously, Google it. I'm not kidding. And it was the weirdest, like the Jungle Book was like never this like huge A-list property. It wasn't like, DuckTales or even like Goofy. Goofy, like, yeah, it's weird. It's a suburban sitcom dad cartoon for Goof Troop, but at least it's like Goofy is one of the big characters. Yeah. This is like the Jungle Book, which is like a B-list. And then 1930s pulp aviation adventure.
Yeah, it's very strange. And I remember you helpfully linked me to a video like retrospective about the series, and it talks a little about the development. But it remains a weird choice. Like nothing I saw convinced me that this was like a good or natural choice necessarily. I think it resulted in a great show. But like,
yes,
this is not something Disney should have bet on because it's very like, but again, this is why it's kind of a good match for Star Wars too. I feel like there is some shared DNA in the influences, there's like,
oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That kind of pulp and like early 20th century kind of like there's like something very Casablanca about it. And it's one of the things that's been observed about Star Wars. I forget who I was reading who was talking about this, but like the way that part of the appeal of the original Star Wars trilogy is that it kind of rehabilitates things that are so cliche that you can't play them straight. So like you can't have a straight military movie that works the way Star Wars does because it's played out. But if you put it in space, you have like the same characters and the same beats.
Right.
And it's like kind of charmingly recognizable. And in the same way, I think Talespin does the same trick where it's like, I don't think you are going to have a lot of success, like maybe not even one season worth of success out of like a show about this like down and out pilot and his kid's sidekick and like, this kind of like will they, won't they romance. And there's like this businessman, but there are also pirates. Like I don't think kids were clamoring for that in the 90s. But by making them animals, by like bringing in the Jungle Book stuff, as nonsensical as it is, it's like, oh, it's weird to see Baloo do this. And that just kind of like, somehow turns it into something you want to watch.
And you mentioned like absolutely some of the shared DNA that like Star Wars is that just all of these different like 20th century, like post-war 1950s, 60s pop culture things kind of sucked into a wonderful just blend of that's that Star Wars magic. And one of them is this like very forgotten kind of strand of adventure, pulp adventure fiction, which is the sort of like Pacific aviation, which is the like, there could be just like a guy with his airplane and he's just going around these different Pacific islands and having adventures. And that strand especially is very distinctive in Star Wars because that's where a lot of Han Solo is coming from. Like a lot of like Han Solo specific character type is this particular kind of aviation based like pulp adventure fiction that also gives us Talespin. So there always is that strand of Star Wars in like the fiction and in the even gaming especially of running a kind of very Han Solo, very Firefly, like your fringers, you're like people on the edge, you're kind of, have your ship and you're just trying to like get jobs and keep the ship flying and all those kind of things. And I actually ran a campaign Rachel was in that I mentioned in a previous episode in the old Saga edition, like D20 Saga edition. And as I was running it, I was just thinking about how much Talespin overlap there is. So like literally, I think for basically the entire time we've been married, so I believe I was running that like our first year of marriage. I started it.
Our first year of marriage, you were still running a mage because I remember that you wrapped up the mage game right before our oldest was born. So
yes, but so a very long time.
It's been like
since that a while. Long time, I have thought Talespin would be perfect for Star Wars, especially for the Han Solo branch of Star Wars. And that if you're like running one of those games, all you need to do is go look up episodes of Talespin. And that will give you like all the plot. It'll give you plots. It'll give you NPCs. It'll give you setting. And this right here, dear listener, is my chance to prove that theory.
I love you so much.
So there's so much to talk about here, but tick, focus. Let's focus up. I'm talking to myself. Focus up.
This is Tom's episode. We just live in it.
So let's kind of focus up. That's sort of why we're doing it. It's a very, very, very long digressive windup of why we're doing this, why we wanted to do a Peddler's Tale about Talespin for this specific Star Wars series we're doing. And now let's zoom in a little bit on the sort of core person we we all agree we want to import into Star Wars, if we do nothing else with this series, putting out there in the universe, bringing Don Karnage, captain of the Iron Vulture, into Star Wars is a worthwhile accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a bit about why Don Karnage is so great and why he's so great for Star Wars.
Okay. You're both looking at me. And so...
I'm trying to be very cognizant of not talking too much because this is like, I'm just sort of my brain.
I love you very much.
So, I mean, I think Don Karnage is, he's just such a great, like, flamboyant character. He is, as he's developed, because he actually appears, and I think it's important to establish this early because both portrayals are great. He appears in Talespin, but then he also appears in the 2017 DuckTales. And there, he does like whole musical numbers and everything. He's great in both series. I think he's so over the top. He is such like the archetype of like, you know, the charming but kind of ruthless pirate. But he has so much individual character. I sort of feel like a DM just sort of with the courage to attempt an impression of either portrayal of this character, you could get a long way at the table just kind of like doing your best impression of him as he appears there, because he's perfect for Star Wars, I feel, because obviously like the pirate thing fits right in. The fact that like this is a character who really needs his milieu. Like you're not going to take Don Karnage away from piracy, away from like ships. That's who he is. That's where he fits. That's perfect for Star Wars. He's also perfect for D&D. We'll talk later about like the mechanical realization of that and kind of like how he fits into fantasy. But I think in fact, like Star Wars in a fantasy setting is kind of even more perfect for Don Karnage because he might seem a little over the top in baseline Star Wars. But I think, I mean, I've seen DMs do sillier things than like start a musical number at the beginning of combat.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, he's perfect. He is this, his species was hotly debated for some time, but ultimately was settled to be a wolf.
This will come up later. In incorporating the old material, this will come up.
This is an important plot point.
And he's not carried over from Jungle Book. Yeah, he is this wolf. He is this pirate. He is this dapper gentleman. He has kind of a propensity for like using not quite the right word. Which is like a nice little, again, this is like a thing you can do as a DM just to like make the character memorable. And he's just this all-purpose, like super theatrical villain who can show up to try to steal anything, interfere with whatever plans the player characters have. And I mean, I'm sure we'll talk more about Talespin. You were saying, Tom, that like you can get Star Wars plots by just watching episodes of Talespin. You don't need to watch that many episodes of Talespin. Like you can watch a few and like there are only so many things that happen in Talespin, and Don Karnage is just like part of the fabric of that. He's kind of like the Skeletor of the show. And he's just this like great character who you're always happy to see as a villain, and you can throw him into any one of these kind of like handful of hijinks that the characters get into. He always fits perfectly. He's always a good time. He always is foiled, but then comes back again. So yeah, he's just, I love Don Karnage. And we'll talk about the specifics as we talk about developing him, but like, he's that perfect, like, he's exactly the cartoon villain that you want, but he's not just that. He has like his look, his mannerisms, all those little details. He will be remembered if you introduce him into your campaign. Like if you have one session with Don Karnage, I guarantee you that the players will remember the Don Karnage session for years to come.
Absolutely. And just like, he's that perfect, like, he's so goofy and so fun and so flamboyant that I feel like he's really going to work as a recurring villain, because the PCs are not going to be like, we got to murder that guy.
Yeah.
Like, no, we're not going to let him escape. We are going to track him down. We're going to use all of our actions to pursue him and kill him until he is dead. Which is like the default PC approach to a threat. But if they're like, we like this guy, we want to let him get away. He's such a fun, goofy villain. And that's a huge like edge to have if you want to introduce this character to be a recurring kind of threat / annoyance / hazard in this particular setting. And I like you had a really interesting idea, to put you on the spot some more, about the 2017.
Yeah, speaking of recurring.
Speaking of recurring, yeah. Okay, this is your idea, so
Yeah, one of the things that's established, and I think it's actually extra textual material that firmly establishes this, but like what the creators have said is what they had in mind is that the Don Karnage from the 2017 DuckTales has inherited the title of Don Karnage in like a Dread Pirate Roberts way. And so they're actually two different characters. So my thought was we could make Don Karnage into literally a character, like a Commedia dell'arte character that is played successively by different pirates who are also like bards, basically, who aspire to and like apprentice to play this role from like the previous Don Karnage, and then ultimately it's like this big honor to take on that role and live out being Don Karnage until you pass on the role. And that really fits into some of the things we've established about him. I think that like the singing is a big part of it. Like if we can have him singing in combat the way he does in the 2017 DuckTales, that's great. And
Yes.
you know, at first that seems over the top, but then you remember that bards exist. And it's like, oh yeah, we do this all the time in D&D.
Yeah.
Literally a whole class of magic singing people.
Yeah.
In combat.
And also, there is a notable episode of Talespin where it's kind of established that like Don Karnage has a sense of honor that even though he is, you know, quite ruthless, he is the villain of the show, he will abide by this kind of sense of honor. And so I thought it would be interesting to have that as part of the character. So regardless of whether the current Don Karnage is like tending more toward evil or more toward sort of like a goofy villain, either way, part of the role of Don Karnage is this sense of honor. And so you're really bound by it. Like your pride in the role is such that even if you would love to just kill the heroes, if it wouldn't be honorable, that's not what Don Karnage would do. And I think there's also kind of like some meta fun to be had with like a villain who's like, damn it, that's not what my character would do.
Yes.
That's not what Don Karnage would do. I want to throw you out the air like the airlock, but that's not what Don Karnage would do. And if I can riff on this for a second, I think you could do something really interesting because this like DuckTales thing, it's a good way of trying to justify the fact that Talespin is clearly in like the 1930s. And 2017 DuckTales is set in a kind of version of the present. So there's like social media and smartphones and all those things. Is that kind of title passed on? And the title's passed on, but it's like the same exact look and personality. And I was wondering, I have in the notes here, it says Magic Cutlass, comma, the Santa Claus. And what if it were, was this, I don't know if it was near you, because they had the Cutlass, and what if it were like, it's not just a title that's passed on, it's like the next captain of the Iron Vulture gets the Cutlass. So this Cutlass, it's like a sentient magic item, and it actually has this like Santa Claus, the Santa Claus starring Tim Allen-esque thing where like you get it and you're like, okay, I have this title of Don Karnage, but it actually starts like overwriting your personality and even your appearance to continue this legacy. Maybe it's even like haunted by the ghost of the original Don Karnage who kind of possesses you, which is an awesome way to do immortality. You have a look on your face, my love.
And it will come up in the section on incorporating builder material.
I have a thought about this because so initially I'm resistant to this because I really like the actor angle, and you're taking away from that if you have However, as I'm thinking about this is such a fun character. I think if you wanted the character to be recurring, one thing you could do is have like the past Don Karnages in the sword.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And what you could do is a special arc or just session where you do like they did in DS9 with Dax's previous personalities, where they get like projected out of the others. So everybody can play a Don Karnage.
Oh, that's awesome. That would be so awesome.
That is just oops, all Don Karnages.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Because like if the DM gets to do this, like every arc, they get to show up as Don Karnage and like steal the scene, the players are going to love the opportunity. It makes me think of on the Thrilling Adventure Hour, they did this with Sparks Nevada, right? There was like a special episode where like all the actors got their chance to play Sparks Nevada. It's one of those characters where like the goofy words, like all these little mannerisms that are so fun for the DM, everybody's going to want to get in on that at least once.
That is amazing.
And the great thing is we can just offer you, dear listener, all of these as possible. Maybe there's one Don Karnage, maybe there's multiple, a line of bardic Don Karnages, maybe there's a line of haunted magic sword Don Karnages, like whatever works best for you.
Yeah. Also, I realized actually, because many of our listeners might not have seen Talespin, we should talk a little bit about like the Iron Vulture and kind of the modus operandi.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
it's not just like the Black Pearl.
You take
going
this one,
around.
love.
Oh, okay.
Who's on the spot now?
So the Iron Vulture is this big ship, like basically shaped like a vulture head, and it's less like a pirate ship in and of itself than kind of an aircraft carrier.
It's so cool.
And like its mouth opens up, and like all the little, in Star Wars terms, all your little TIE fighters' and X-wings come out to raid.
Basically, imagine like the helicarrier from S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes.
But the front is a big vulture head, and the beak can actually open up to like swallow up, to like take in and board smaller vessels.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's so cool.
But no, it's great, and it like is so unique, and we'll get into this more in a minute, but like even it's their like base. It's not just an airship, it also is like they have rooms, and there's a kitchen, and there's a dining room, and there's a this, and there's a like, it's a whole flying pirate ship, basically. That is enormous and has all these little pirate airplanes that fly out and attack, and it's so cool.
It's so cool.
Yeah, personally, I think this is so central to who Don Karnage is that, like, my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like, as you were mentioning earlier, you're leaving it open whether in this, like, in the archipelago in general, whether these are like sailing ships or airships.
Yes.
But like, I think, and we discussed this when we sort of like planned the episode. If nowhere else you have airships, you should have airships here because it's central to
Absolutely.
Talespin. And I really like the idea that like this specific place is vulnerable. I think that the kind of piracy that Don Karnage does, it especially works well with these airships, and it kind of like it ties him to this specific part of the setting with other airships, which is great because it kind of like, the whole show is such like an interesting location. I'm sure we'll talk more about like Cape Suzette and all these characters, but like they're all tied together. It's a pretty like small, like a tight knit ensemble, and having him do this form of piracy with the Iron Vulture, that like keeps what's great about the character. It keeps what's unique about him and his MO. And it also ties him to this place. Like there aren't necessarily airships for him to get in other locations. And so it kind of like ties everything together in a very neat way. And I'm sure when we talk about adventures later, we'll talk about like the possibilities of doing like your little stop off in Cape Suzette in the context of a larger campaign. But yeah, this like giving him the Iron Vulture, doing what it does in the air, very neatly makes him like the defining villain of this mini setting in a way that's like very, very contained and very natural.
No, absolutely. So I'm so excited to talk about Cape Suzette. But first, we have our responsibility to the format of the Peddler's Tales we've established. And let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned that mechanical implementation of Don Karnage. And we start with like a stat block. It's going to be the base stat block. And this is actually we were talking off mic a little earlier about the 2024, 2014, some of the differences in those 5th editions. And one thing I will say is the 2024 monster manual has a lot of really like good stuff in it, and it has more monsters, and also one of the things, they try and have a lot of variants, and especially different like level variants of monsters, so you can throw them against groups of different levels. And it has the pirate captain.
Nice.
So very much the easiest thing in the world. What else could we do for Don Karnage but stat similar to a pirate captain? And the pirate captain, and this is kind of what makes them different from like your bandit chief stat block, is they're going for that classic swashbuckler fiction. They actually have a charm effect.
Oh.
It's like, we don't even need to build in the charm effect. The 5e 2024 pirate captain stat block has a charm effect. Because once again, they're going for your classic Don Karnage-esque, like swashbuckling pirate captain.
Buckling swash.
I don't know, obviously he's the captain of the Iron Vulture. He has this pretty significant pirate group that obeys him. I don't know if he needs any other powers or abilities to just be his wonderful Don Karnage self.
Pretty straightforward, because it's not like he's a Dark Lord or anything. He's not like going to be closing borders.
Once again, maybe something with like he can do bardic inspiration and song.
Yeah.
Like when he's doing a musical number.
It's like a pirate captain with bard levels, basically. Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, and I feel like that's case by case, because it depends on, like, the Iron Vulture is the thing that makes him an appropriate villain for the setting. So, like, for his personal abilities, I feel like those could be tailored to the way you want to use him. I feel like the main thing is you got to let this man sing. And whatever that takes. Like, your players, and, like, you may need to bring more,
At any cost.
yeah, there's some players who are not going to want to let Don Karnage sing, and those players must be defeated.
Yes. Tough for them. It's his turn.
Yes.
You can't stop him from singing on his turn. It's his action. So that is sort of the fairy thank you 2024. I wish they all had like a stat block that was the thing the villain is, the NPC is. But now sort of a bit more of the abstract. And once again, I don't know if we're going to see this in the 2024 implementation of Ravenloft, but it will always be there on our heart.
Yeah, because listeners, by the time you're listening to this, the 2024 Ravenloft book will have come out. We are recording in May, so
Yes.
you know things that we do not. That we will
Absolutely.
know by the time this drops, but we are not currently cursed with knowledge.
But
so.
even if it doesn't do the Dark Lord quotes anymore, we are going to continue
Yes.
doing the Dark Lord quotes. These are the role-playing trait, ideal, bond, and flaw, which are in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, which was our original template for when we started the show. They are expressed in quotes by the Dark Lord, so we always try and find quotes for the Dark Lord that we are from the media in question.
And Kris, you said that you had something for
Yes.
this that you wanted to surprise us with on mic, so here you go.
Yes. So usually, Tom, you go and get like all these different quotes, and so I was looking through them, kind of getting a preview of what's available for Don Karnage, and I noticed that some of them are taken from Don Karnage in 2017 DuckTales, where one of the things he does is like he has his song that he sings. So I was thinking, because we want this to be like a Bardy type of character who sings in combat, if we choose them right, we can choose them so that going down the line from like role-playing trait down to ideal, bond, and flaw, that they actually like form a little song, because we can find rhymes, because like some of these are actually song lyrics. So we could certainly make like replacements here, but let me just pitch to you
Okay.
how we could put this together. So for role-playing trait, we could do with dagger, swagger, daring do. To me, I feel like that sums it up for like how you play this character.
Definitely. Love it.
This is the tricky one. It's a little bit of a stretch, but I think for ideal, we could do a pernicious, vicious, raucous gent, because he is playing a character. I would say like normally that's not ideal territory, but given that this is a character who, I mean, his aspiration is to play the character of Don Karnage, that this would work. For Bond, we could then do 'Tis I who lead this fearless crew. And then for Flaw, now back to me, the main event.
That's really good. The way you are reading this, I assume you have it written down.
Yeah, I could do
Please,
them all in a row.
share it so I can put it in the write-up.
Yes.
Nailed it. Normally, dear listener, normally this section takes a lot longer.
Yes,
We're like
but-
discussing different quotes and debating them and talking about the pros and cons.
But
And you
there
just
is-
nailed it out of the gate.
There's one like objectively correct way to do this, and Kris just nailed it. So good job.
Yeah, and that way you can put in the write-up, like, you know, this can be actually like a verse of his song if you're going to have him sing in battle, like just like reciting all of his character traits in a row.
That's so good. Thank you. I wish this was this easy for all of them.
For ideal, since we're doing it as he's playing a part, what if we tweak it a little bit? Because sometimes we do that.
Sure,
Because
yeah.
what if it's act the pernicious, vicious something gent
Let me see.
instead of just A?
I don't object. I just want to make sure that that you can still sing it.
Hello, dear listeners. What follows is 8 minutes of a pair of English majors arguing with one another about rhyme schemes and about what does and doesn't count as an article. I was right about what does and doesn't count as an article, but I was wrong about the rhyme scheme, and I will admit that. Act the pernicious, vicious gent puts a dactyl into what is otherwise iambic tetrameter, and that is a no-no. And yeah, I should have seen that there was a dactyl in there, but I had the bit between my teeth, and like Don Karnage, I could not let go of the bit. So if you don't want to have the ideal include this element of acting and, you know, like coming right out and saying that he's playing a part, unfortunately you have to lose pernicious, because that it just the way it works is it's too hard to get it to fit the rhythm. So if you want to keep that beautiful internal rhyme, then you go with the original, a pernicious, vicious, raucous gent. If you want it to have that sense of acting a part, I play the vicious, raucous gent, or I act the vicious, raucous gent. Either is proper. I just saved you 8 minutes of your one wild and precious life. But yes, brilliant. brilliant.
Yeah, no, I love the
Brilliant,
basic like concept choice. Great. So that is our idea for representing Don Karnage in the mechanical and also in the sort of role-playing, guidance, in song form. And we've mentioned a bunch of times that I, at least personally, am just as excited to talk about the setting that Don Karnage is our kind of into, though he's absolutely the highlight NPC to bring in. The whole setting is a brilliant addition to any Star Wars games, up to and including our weird steampunk island nautical Star Wars pastiche that we're doing here. And let's talk a little bit about that setting. Let's talk about why it fits so well into Star Wars.
As the story went on, I found myself longing for the Peddler. I had always considered him long-winded, but compared to Onaka, he was downright pithy. By my reckoning, he had gone on for at least 4 23-minute installments, interrupted by breaks for more jet juice. Afra was right. It was excellent, and it went down smooth enough that I stopped after 2 drinks. Hondo had no such restraint.
And then I searched the ship top to bottom, but the crystal was gone. That dastardly Karnage must have stolen it. How dare he steal from me what I honestly pilfered from him? No one likes a sore loser, Karnage.
If you did have the crystal, what would you have done with it? Used it for more of the daring act of piracy for which you were so thoroughly renowned? I thought that last part may have been laying it on a bit thick, but Onaka didn't seem to notice.
Why, I would have ransomed it back to Karnage, of course. He has some plan to power a weapon and loot Cape Suzette. It all sounds very risky. I'll take my percentage up front, thank you.
That does sound like the safer course of action. Well, thank you for the story, Captain Onaka, but I fear I must be on my way. Best of luck to you.
And to you as well, my dear. Safe journeys. Let me know when you finish that book about me. I'll be happy to autograph it for you.
That had to be enough for Afra. I bought another round of drinks for him and his men, and procured that jet juice for her, along with a tally of how much she owed me for keeping Onaka's voice lubricated. As I was leaving, I heard a familiar voice.
Psst, over here.
I should have known he would be here. The moment he caught my eye, he jerked his head toward a napkin on the table in front of him, which he pulled aside to reveal a red stone. I sighed, approaching the table. You stole Don Karnage's stone from... Never mind, of course he did.
Keep your voice down.
He ushered me outside.
Do you know what Onaka would do to me if he knew I had this? And he and Karnage aren't the only ones looking for it. I shudder to think of what would happen if this returned to Shere Khan.
Wait, Shere Khan? Of the Seani? What in the hell's is Shere Khan doing here?
No, this is a different Shere Khan. It's very confusing, I know, but try to keep up. This Shere Khan has no connection to that Shere Khan, but there is a connection between Shere Khan, not that Shere Khan, but this Shere Khan, and this stone. I'm sure Hondo only told you half the story.
Oh, no, that's fine. He told me
There
plenty.
was also a young ex-pirate named Kid Cloudkicker.
So, the setting of Talespin is this island and this whole sort of Pacific islands around it, Pacific area around it called Cape Suzette. And that's just kind of what we're using that. That's the specific island. It's the home base of Baloo, which once again, I understand if you're one of our younger listeners, one of our YouTube younger listeners, that Baloo the Bear from the Jungle Book was also a pilot is a weird thing to think about, but it happened. Google it. Mm-hmm. And so we're using that term Cape Suzette for the just general, like all these islands, this whole area. And for Star Wars proper, as I've thought of many, many, many times, this could just be a planet. Like Cape Suzette could be a planet, and the whole thing could be a solar system. There's a couple of other locations, and it's really easy to make them other planets or other like asteroids or whatever, or space stations in this solar system. And we, as we said, we've come all the way, we've looped back around with our D&D Ravenloft version of Star Wars to just being islands, in which case we can just take everything exactly as is in Talespin and drop them into our versions of the Outer Rim. Mm-hmm. So in our version, it's just, there is an island, it is called Cape Suzette, and there's a bunch of other islands, kind of an island chain around it. So we are imagining that Cape Suzette is kind of the big island of this island chain. It's the center, it's the most populous, it's got a full city there, it's got a lot of industry. It is the main port and the main settlement of this sort of region of the archipelago. it does have these cliff guns. That's like a plot point, a couple episodes that defend it from pirates. So we have one of the very first scenes, the Don Karnage and the Sky Pirates are chasing Baloo. Once he gets to Cape Suzette, the cliff guns drive them off. So you even have this great, like, this is kind of the safe zone. You can, if you leave Cape Suzette, you're always that possibility of hazards or Don Karnage. But once you get back there with your PCs and their ship, it's safe zone.
Yeah, I think that's to me the most important thing. Like, there's a lot to love about this setting, but like the cliff guns are maybe they don't come up overtly a ton, but it's super important because of structurally what they do, where it's like this can be, as you say, it's your safe zone, but it's also still sort of in this like swashbuckling territory. You know, it's like, you know, we'll talk about Louis and everything, but like, I feel like that's really important that there's like, you know, flying in between the cliffs and like, now we're safe, but we're still, you know, we're still going to have hijinks in here because like we are surrounded by kind of like pirate territory. It's not like we've made our way back to like real civilization.
And you have got in Cape Suzette, and this is, I think, in sort of now placing it in Star Wars terms, in Cape Suzette, you have got this Khan Industries, which, oh my gosh, if you've not watched Talespin, you have got Shere Khan, and it's the absolute genius of Shere Khan as a suit-wearing mega millionaire business tycoon. And it's so good, and it's so perfect as a version of Shere Khan.
Voiced by Tony J, a.k.a. Frollo.
Right, exactly. Imagine like Frollo doing like dry business, ruthless businessman talk, and it's so great. And so this even kind of fits our setting. We're doing this in the Outer Rim because we mentioned that's an area where the Empire has less of a presence. Like, technically, the Empire is in control of this territory, but there's a lot more independence. They're stretched much thinner. They have much less of a presence. And here, we're imagining Cape Suzette is like, okay, it's the home base of this like giant shipping company called Khan Industries. And that does give them a certain amount of power and a certain amount of autonomy. So the Empire's kind of, it's kept at arm's length because of the sort of political and commercial influence Shere Khan has. So, like, it's basically independent. Like, it's sort of like Cloud City, you know, at the beginning of Empire Strikes Back. It's basically an independent kind of city, commercial city. And I think this is going to be a really cool thing to bring into Shere Khan, which we'll talk about more in a minute. And then in terms of other like locations, factions, and NPCs, we have Louis. Because yes, King Louis from the Jungle Book is in this show.
And he basically runs like Mos Eisley Cantina.
Yeah, he kind of runs a pilot bar. There's like an island, and it's like a refueling station, and it's also like a big pilot bar.
And wears a Hawaiian shirt. And,
and a straw hat. It's
why not?
So great.
So great.
I love Talespin so much. Such a series of bizarre yet perfect choices.
And just Louis, it's such a good, because, you know, it's the pilot bar, it's where they hang out. Like, it's such a good Mos Eisley Cantina kind of location for your PCs to go if they need to hire a pirate, if they need to hire a pilot, if they need to probably could, if they need to pick up pilot gossip. Like, there's so much good stuff that you could do at Louis Bar. It's just amazing.
Or even like, I love it works if you imagine it as a big refueling station. That even is the perfect, like, we're not even like here to do anything.
Yeah.
We're just here, and we're going to, like, get a couple drinks while we're here, and then, like, the plot happens.
Yeah.
And then a dwarf runs in with an arrow in his back and a map in his hand and says, "Avenge my death." Like, this can be the classic, like, bar, tavern, inn where the plot happens to the PCs. And there's a perfectly organic reason for them to come to this place, which I love.
Yeah, I mean, there was, like, I'm sure it's been cut out. There's kind of a big silence there, and when we first talked about Louis, like, what do we have to say about Louis? And I feel like...
Right.
But that's not because it's not great. It's because, like, you're playing Star Wars. Like, there has to be a cantina. Like, there has to be a cantina equivalent. And, like, everybody knows what this location is. And it's, like, it's your favorite location. It's, like, it's the location where all the fun stuff happens. It's where you can have a bar fight, but it's also where, like, you know, the troopers can kind of, like, storm in. But then you can have, like, you know, again, like, talking about Casablanca. Like, this is just, it's a classic location. It's so useful to the adventure. And if you've laid the groundwork by setting up Cape Suzette, so there is this interplay of, like, this is pirate territory, but this is kind of like the safe spot. All of that comes together to create the cantina, which is just like, you know, nobody needs our advice on what to do with the cantina. It's, you know.
Yeah. It's not like we don't have anything to say because there's nothing to say. It's we don't have anything to say because, come on, guys, it's Louis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the cantina, but also the gas station.
Uh-huh.
So that's why you're going. Like, you don't need a reason to go to the cantina. You just need gas for your spaceship.
And the cantina has, like, a bartender who knows what's up.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. And he's like really fun. Imagine King Louis from the Jungle Book and just kind of doing the voice. And it's so great.
So good.
He's got little monkey helpers running around doing stuff.
Yeah. You know, for some reason, what comes to mind for me of like, it says so much about this show and like how this fits into Star Wars and how it fits into gaming. In the initial arc of Talespin, because it's like a multi-parter to start the series.
Right.
The thing with Baloo, and again, it's like in keeping with Star Wars, it's like the most cliche thing imaginable, but it really hits, is like Baloo's whole thing, he even has a musical number about it, is like, I'm gone. He's the guy who like, he just wants to be a pilot, he just wants to fly, and his solution to trouble is just to leave. He just wants to, you know, he doesn't want to get tied down. And so, you know, we see him kind of like leaving Louis in that way, where it's like, you know, he's a regular at Louis and everybody knows he's this great pilot, but he's like living this freewheeling lifestyle. And I feel like Louis is part of that, where it's like, it is this liminal space. As you say, it's like, it's the fueling station, it's the cantina. You come here and meet people, but like, this is where you meet a guy who like has never put down roots. And, you know, when the Empire comes snooping around, he just leaves. He doesn't like stop to help people. But then of course he comes back because he's got a heart of gold. Like,
It's so
you
good.
know.
Classic Star Wars. And then we also have, speaking of Baloo, in Cape Suzette, there is the sort of center of the whole show, which is this like one plane shipping company Baloo's a part of, Hire for Hire. And I remember originally I was like, I don't know if we need to do Hire for Hire. But then you were like, this is a great way to get an NPCs a ship.
Yes.
Because, like, if you have people coming in from, like, regular Ravenloft, or even maybe...
You don't know how to fly a plane.
Right, other parts of Star Wars, like, they need, like, a plane. They need a ship to take them around. This is the obvious, like, oh, this is this small company where you can hire them to take you somewhere. And that, like, so much immediately gets you hooked in and entangled with a lot of the main, like, NPCs and conflicts of the setting.
Baloo would be a much healthier pilot for Deeth and Afra. But
Yes,
yeah.
oh my gosh. Yes. She would just be kind of annoyed at how
Yes.
sort of disinterested he is.
She wouldn't have to worry about him selling her to the Empire.
But like such a likable guy.
The role of Hire for Hire to me feels like it's an interesting class of things especially when you're adapting material. But like they are such a player character group that I think the thing to bear in mind is don't throw this out, but keep in mind that they're occupying some space that the player characters may occupy when they enter the story. And so you have to tailor it. So like whoever you have in the party, get them off screen, get them out of the way. So like if you do have somebody who can pilot an airship and that's like part of the fun you're having here, obviously take the Baloo character out of the picture. And what you have is an organization that has a plane, you know, they've got an airship and they've got this owner who needs to pay the bills and her, you know, cute daughter, but they don't have their pilot. And so then that slots right in.
Oh, that's smart.
Conversely, you may have a character who can like function as essentially the mechanic. You take that character out and it's like, now we've got our pilot, we've got our ship, but then we have the job for the PCs to do, keeping this ship running, you know, whatever. They could even take the Rebecca role where it's like, maybe they come in with just the money. Maybe what they've got is this failing thing where it's like, we've got our ace pilot, we've got our airship, but the problem is the bill collectors are after him. And so we come in with like, hey, we don't know how to fly, but we're rich. Guess what? We own your plane now and you're coming with us.
It's so great because, like, I love the observation Hire for Hire is a PC group because it's like if the PCs are like Outlanders and you're just doing your, like, you know, one adventure in Cape Suzette, then absolutely Hire for Hire fills all those spaces they might need to interact with the setting. But if you want to do locals, if you want to do a long-term adventure in this, then Hire for Hire is like this great model of what a PC group could look like. Like I even love, there's this holder just trying to like get enough money, just trying to pay the bills, just trying to like keep the ship flying. And there's even like a job board. Like there's points where they're like going up and there is by the docks this classic board with all these jobs on it. And it is the most D&D thing imaginable. If you just go to the quest board and see who's hiring. So then I met, speaking of the sort of the opposite side of the socioeconomic capitalist spectrum, Hire for Hire, smallest business possible. And then we mentioned Con Industries. And the main thing we see Con Industries doing is shipping. So imagine he's this like huge shipping magnate who runs one of the largest shipping companies in the archipelago. And He's absolutely ruthless. And the thing I love about him as a potential, because I love in this show, like, he's not a villain, but he's not an ally. He's always sort of doing what's best for him and his company. And that's such a cool NPC type to throw at your PCs. And I think this particularly is an interesting thing in conjunction with the idea of the Empire. And the idea that, like, yeah, he doesn't want the Empire in Cape Suzette. Like, he wants to maintain that autonomy and that independence. You know, he wants to Lando. He wants to keep them out of Cloud City. But he's not, like, a good person. So he's a potential ally because he wants to keep the Empire out of Cape Suzette. But he absolutely will do whatever ruthless or horrible thing is necessary to, like, appease the Empire to keep them out of Cape Suzette and from interfering with his business operations.
Yeah, or even just to line his own pockets.
Yeah,
if,
exactly.
if the Empire's not showing up in it at all. Like, he's going to be ruthlessly exploiting everything. And
It's so good.
then it's even the whole, like, he wants to keep the Empire out of Cape Suzette. Are we going to team up with the Empire against Shere Khan? Don't team up with the Empire against Shere Khan. That's a terrible idea. But, like, somebody might, and your PCs have to stop them. Like, there's so much. When you have two absolute buttheads going against each other, then that's such a narratively ripe setting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And what's great too is, like, this has all of the coding of, like, the little kind of backwater, the little place that, like, doesn't matter in the scheme of, like, the greater conflict, which is a great situation to put player characters into because they can pick sides pretty much with impunity. And you can do this kind of wheeling dealing where it's like we're playing all the sides against each other. And then at the end, we do just get to fly away. It doesn't have to have these huge implications. And so, you know, it's possible, like, if you decided, you know, for whatever reason, your player characters just, like, come to hate the Shere Khan character, you could tip off the Empire to things out him before you go, just to give him a real bad day before you fly away. And, like, it's not a huge, like, you know, the fate of the galaxy is not hinging on, you know, whether they raid Shere Khan's holdings, and vice versa. You know, you can give the Empire a real black eye here via Shere Khan, and, you know, it's not like you're going to end up with, you know, Dark Lord Shere Khan ruling the galaxy or anything. This is one small theater. And what I love too, like, bringing Don Karnage back into it, Don Karnage and Shere Khan are, like, your two big potential antagonists who also are, like, directly opposed in their motivations and their MO.
It's so perfect.
So yeah, it throws the player characters right into that situation where it's like anybody here is a potential antagonist, a potential ally, or we can be, like, a third faction, and it can be everyone against everyone, with that also that looming, like, outside world with all of its factions. And yeah, it's just kind of perfect for this, like, little ragtag group, which is, again, this is part of why it's so Star Wars. It's like Hire for Hire, they're caught up in the middle of this conflict, but, like, this doesn't really have anything to do with them per se. They're just trying to fly their plane, you know?
Yeah. No, it's so perfect.
It's great.
Speaking also of Don Karnage, one more location, we have Pirate Island. And it's this, like, secret island that's the home base for the Iron Vulture. It's where they go to refuel it. And, you know, that's right there a potentially huge dungeon that you could send your PCs into, because it's a volcano island, it's a volcano island.
Full of pirates.
Full of pirates with an airship. It's the best thing ever. And that also kind of potentially, we mentioned this idea that we're leaving up to individual DMs if they want it to be more airships or more ocean ships. And it's possible to do an ocean version of the Iron Vulture, to have, like, the Iron Squid, the Iron Nautilus, and to have a, like, giant Nautilus type sub. But the Iron Vulture is so distinctive and so important.
It's so good.
And we were talking about this, like, okay, once you introduce an airship, how do you have it that doesn't kind of take over the whole setting? Like, let's say we want to do mostly nautical Star Wars with, like, Nautiluses and steampunk Atlantis The Last Empire style ships. And the great thing is, if you have the idea of, I remember you called it this, if the Iron Vulture has a limited range, because it needs to, like, go to this base to refuel.
Yeah, I think something, again, if you want to make that compromise, I think that's exactly how you do it, is have something here that is, like, the reason that airships can't kind of escape this region. That gives you something to fight over too. I think one of the other great things about the opening arc of Talespin is that it has this, like, very classic MacGuffin, this, like, you know, jewel that all the different factions want. I think introducing something like that helps kind of, like, do your initial stirring of the pot to get all the factions against each other, and control over a location like the volcano or a MacGuffin like the stone would be just the thing to do that. And it also gives you, like, local stakes. Like I was just talking about how, like, you kind of get to fly away at the end. It gives you local stakes where it's like control of this volcano could be the decisive thing you do to sort of like settle the conflict of this region, but still people can't fly out of it. Like the consequences of your actions here are kind of like they stay here. And so everything you do is a big damn deal here. And then, you know, doesn't follow you to kind of like the next adventure setting. And all the characters stay here heavily invested in this. I kind of love that, like, because I feel like people might even want to come back and like see Don Karnage later, you know? But, and you can have that and, you know, have the consequences of your actions here persist without ever worrying that you're going to have this escape. Because like the volcano is not, I was about to say you can't move the volcano. I mean, it's D&D. Of course you can move the volcano, but you can't readily move the volcano.
It's probably a specific spell for that. So we have been teased, both of us, Kris and myself, throughout this recording process with the hint that some interesting ideas are coming into your mind about connecting Talespin with some of the older, especially 2nd edition, 3rd edition Ravenloft material. And now we've arrived at that moment, and I'm so excited to hear. You had a very thoughtful face a little bit ago. What are you thinking?
Well, this is what I had going in before the thoughtful face, which was Don Karnage being a wolf being so important.
You mentioned plot point.
Yes, because Don Karnage is a wolf. Don Karnage is a bard. Don Karnage is flamboyant and has a flair for the theatrical. Don Karnage is not only from Cardicus, but is probably one of Harkon Lucas's kids.
Yes, I love it so much.
He's building up this entire, like, pirate thing. Like, possibly to impress Dad. Possibly to, like, make a life of his own without
I like that
Dad.
he's, like, going his own way.
Yeah,
He's like,
yeah.
I'm my own person, Dad.
Dad, I'm
This
17.
is not a phase. Not a phase, Dad. I'm not going to move home and do music.
I'm going to be a pirate who happens
who
to
I
do music.
am.
So, yeah, just drop the occasional hint about Don Karnage being from Cardicus and possibly being Harkon Lucas's
That is
kid.
so
and
much fun.
especially if you do this after a Cardicus like
If
session,
you could,
or
like,
have like
comment on a resemblance between
Yes.
like Harkon Lucas and Don Karnage.
yes,
And
or just have Ravenloft happy players. It's going to be a blast.
that's so much fun. I love that.
Yes.
But now thoughtful face.
Thoughtful face. Okay.
I didn't know this once. This is
No.
you're learning the same time as I am.
I mean,
listener.
I just like figured it out on mic while you guys were talking. So okay. All right. So this whole like magic cutlass Santa Claus thing.
what a life we live. That's a sentence you just said.
So there was in the older material, because in the new stuff they basically just have the Dark Lords have plot armor, they're going to come back, and that's just set in stone. That's the 5e thing. In 2nd and 3rd edition, they had to come up with these like ridiculous, contrived resurrection plots to give some of the Dark Lords plot armor. Some of them didn't have plot armor. Like, you could just kill Ivan or Ivana. They didn't have anything going on. So, like, you know, Harkon Lucas, it was like, if you killed him, then he would be reborn into a wolf in Cardicus. So you had to kill every single wolf in Cardicus in order to kill Harkon Lucas.
Very complicated way of saying you can't kill him.
Yes. But Haslick had this, like, amulet thing. And it wasn't his phylactery because he wasn't a lich, but it was basically his phylactery. And if you killed Haslick, then you had to make a will save with a ridiculously high DC to not want to put the amulet on. And if you made that will save, then the next person who saw the amulet would have to make the will save. And you know, eventually,
I think I see where we're going with this.
eventually someone would have to put the amulet on, and they wind up turning into Haslick. Wouldn't it be silly to have Haslick, like, the person who has the amulet, like, knows that Haslick is a character that they're being forced to play, but can't stop themselves from playing him. So, like, yeah, you know, I'm Bob the Fighter, but I keep having to play Haslick, the angry gay red wizard who wants to kill all the other red wizards.
Yeah, something like that could definitely work. Yeah, that would be fun. It could even be like, since it's like involved with theater, it could even be seasonal, something like that. If I were doing it that way, that would be really fun, because that way you'd get to interact with the character like outside of them playing the Don Karnage character as well. If you really wanted to focus on that transfer, because they could be kind of becoming a secret. This would be a very fun like weird version of lycanthropy almost, where it'd be like
Where Don
amazing.
Karnage.
when theater season dawns, then they undergo a horrid transformation into Don Karnage.
I mean, when theater season dawns, I undergo a horror transformation.
Or even
so I
like
understand.
if they're in like a public space, if they're like with the other pirates. But if
Yes.
you're like just in their quarters, like, oh, fine. I don't have to be Don Karnage anymore.
And then actually flipping that around, if for whatever reason you wanted to find the horror in Don Karnage, then like
You're in luck. You came to the
believe I
right
just said
place.
that sentence.
Very specific.
No, but you know what?
Listener?
All you have to do, minor key. That's all you got to do. One change.
there you go.
Yes.
But all you have to do is basically take the Haslick thing and port it over to Don Karnage of the, like, when you pick up the magic cutlass, it's not like you're playing the character. It's just so, like, you slowly start transforming and Don Karnage starts possessing you and taking over your body. And, like, it's not that it's a Dread Pirate Roberts thing. It's that Don Karnage is just, like, infecting all of the people who pick up his cutlass. So, like, this is Ravenloft. If you wanted to have horror Don Karnage, then that might be a way to do it.
You're in the right place.
Yeah. Okay, just real quick. If you wanted like an origin for how this, because I really like the Dread Pirate Roberts thing, but as an alternate take, this could be an item that originated as like someone who was an actor who basically this is like you put you put all your lines into the sword. You put like, who is this character into the sword, so that it starts as a way to perfect your performance, and then it becomes this like cursed item that it's like now it's just like taking you through the steps.
What if the sword is a prop? Like it's not a real cutlass. It's a stage cutlass. And it was an actor. And it's sort of like becoming the role. And so it's this whole even really playing the theatricality of like, no, you are like so much performing the role of the pirate captain that you like your cutlass is actually a prop. It's a stage weapon.
And what if this Don Karnage play was originally performed in the arcades of Litwalk?
Yes. It's all coming together. Oh, yeah. So I could talk so much more about Talespin.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to let you talk so much more about Talespin
Okay.
because I mentioned this before, that we've got incorporating
Right.
the Ravenloft stuff into Talespin. But can you talk briefly, I know you could talk for hours,
Yes.
but can you talk briefly for people who want to connect the Talespin stuff to the Star Wars stuff about how
Okay.
they relate?
Well, I kind of touched on this a little bit already. That we're imagining in just I'm taking the nonsense out of my brain. I'm just talking Star Wars now. This is a solar system. It's in the Outer Rim. It's the home of Khan Industries, and so it's got this semi-autonomy. And there even is a really neat thing where the very last episode of Talespin, you have these like World War I fighter plane, like biplane veterans. And Baloo has a line, like a couple of lines about the Great War. And has done like the Great War was 20 years ago. And like they were the heroes of the Great War, but they disappeared and they were doing this thing in the Great War. And it'd be so easy to make it be the Clone Wars.
Yes.
To make it be like, no, the Clone Wars happened and that's kind of the equivalent of the Great War in this setting. And I cut a part where I was going to talk about Thembria, because I love Thembria, but not everyone does, and it's weird and random. But if you hit us up on socials, if you want us to hear more about my thoughts on Thembria.
I love you very
But there
much.
is this kind of rival country to Cape Suzette in Talespin. It's very like Soviet, like 1930s Soviet Union coded. And it'd be the easiest thing in the world to be like, it's this other planet in the solar system, and like they were separatists. Like Cape Suzette's very America coded, so very easy to have them be like they were the Republic. Then you had this Clone Wars in a microcosm, and now like there's technically peace between them, but there's still tension. So I don't know if there's any other Star Wars geolocating.
The only other thing that I would be able to think of is there are a lot of evil megacorporations in Star Wars.
Yes.
Especially in the Legends novels. There's like, it wasn't something that originated with Canto Bight. Canto Bight was actually kind of in conversation with a lot of this older Legends stuff with these, like rapacious industries. And you could have them have relationships with con industries. Like, Kuat Shipyards is an obvious,
absolutely.
Kuat Shipyards and con industries go together like peanut butter and jelly. So, like, if you're looking for an evil Star Wars capitalist organization, go look on Wikipedia and have a blast. And, like, you can either replace con industries with one of those or have con industries having relationships with those. Throw in the Barisi Trading Company while you're at it. Just have a wee of a time.
So many corporations.
So many corporations.
And the nice thing is in Star Wars, speaking of the Clone Wars, we have a lot of evil corporations, but a lot of them are much more your classical, like, evil arms dealers, evil, like, industrial. We don't necessarily have a big shipping magnate except kind of the Trade Federation.
Yeah.
So once again, if we bring in the Clone Wars, the idea that, like, Con Industries sided with the Republic.
Yeah.
And, like, kind of carved out a space. That like, opened a space in the post-Clone Wars.
Yeah, because Trade
in the
Federation was
Empire.
trying to play both sides.
So, like that, they kind of stepped into that vacuum after the end of the Clone Wars. So they've got this, like, growth. They've got this position of power. They've got this kind of very tentative, like, cooperation with the Empire. But once again, Shere Khan just wants, like, his autonomy.
But did they have a kitten trying to bite their elbow?
Did they indeed? Only Shere Khan knows the answer to that. So, I could talk on and on about Talespin, but we're going to stop it here. Like, hit us up on socials if you want to hear more about my thoughts on Thembria or other aspects of Talespin. So, Kris, thank you so much for indulging my desire to talk about Talespin in a semi-professional setting.
Oh, man, thank you. I hadn't thought about Talespin forever, and this is a lot of fun.
I think about Talespin all the time.
I want one more note, just because we would be remiss not to mention it. The character of Kit Cloudkicker, we've barely mentioned, already sound like people will think that you are bullshitting them if you say
yes,
you'll
the character.
This already sounds 100% like a Star Wars character.
Yes. Like a parody of a Star Wars
Yes, that my Star Wars character is Kit Cloudkicker. And he has a little, like, aerofoil he keeps in his pocket that he can fly.
Yes, and a backwards baseball because it's the 90s.
Like, somehow in this intensely 1930s setting, we have a little bit of the 90s.
Yes, if you want to convince your younger players that you are, this is like an April Fool's joke, and you are making up a Disney show from the 90s that I swear isn't Star Wars. It's just there's this pilot, and, like, he owes all this money, and so his ship is kind of in hock. Anyway, thank you for having me on. It's great to talk about Talespin, and I will come back anytime to talk about, like, I don't know, bonkers, like Freakazoid, whatever.
If our listeners are enjoying your perspective on Talespin, where else can they find your work?
Oh, well, if you enjoyed this and you want to hear me talk about something else with zero overlap, you can go to Mega Dumbcast.
The Featherfall spell.
Yeah.
D&D's the overlap.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's a D&D podcast. Yeah, Mega Dumbcast. There I discuss each and every goddamn page of a different role-playing core book or supplement or something every season. This is season 7, the Dungeons and Dragons season, so I'm talking about 3rd edition D&D. As of this recording, I'm almost done recording that season, but it's going to be coming out for a while more. So yeah, it's megadumbcast.podbean.com, and you can hear the daily episodes where I cover every page. Right now I'm talking about spells, and that's like a 100-page section, but we're nearing the end of it.
And you did a special Ravenlaw-focused episode this season with a special guest star named Rachel Kohler.
Yes, so guys, if you want to hear, like, more of me and Kris,
this rapport.
Yes, then the Halloween episode of Mega Dumbcast is on Kris's Patreon, so go join Kris's Patreon. And you can hear me and Kris talking about, like, the various ways that 3rd edition just completely ruined the day of various classes in unfair ways in Ravenloft.
Yeah, that was tons of fun, and we're planning a sequel. I'm not sure whether it's going to come in under the wire before the season's over, but I'm going to try to make it happen because we've got a lot planned for that one. But someday we will return to Tentacle Beach.
We will return to Tentacle Beach.
And if they would like to inquire about what Tentacle Beach is and or hear my thoughts on Thembria, how could they get in touch with us?
Well, you can email us at wonderfulworldofdarklords@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Tumblr, or Patreon at Wonderful World of Darklords. And on YouTube, we're just Wonderful World of Darklord.
And if you like our adaptation of Talespin to Star Wars, basically back to Talespin, then I have a number of horror movies and some other movies adapted into adventures on the DM's Guild. You can just search for Tom Kohler. And we also have, if you're running with a table of cloud kickers of little kids enjoying D&D, we have some resources for running more spooky horror-themed adventures with younger players.
And then speaking of spooky things for younger people, if you heard that little bit where future Rachel came in and said, we're cutting this long conversation between Rachel and Kris about rhyme schemes, and you said, no, I want more rhymes.
More rhymes.
I have a picture book, Mother Ghost, Nursery Rhymes for Little Monsters. It's exactly what it sounds like, 13 classic nursery rhymes written to be about Halloween. I also have several short stories for adults available on my website, www.rachelkohler.com. Most of them are available for free there, and the ones that aren't, there are links to where you can find them.
Until next time, thank you for listening. Happy gaming.
And may the Force be with you.
So you see, I need to get rid of this quickly. There are far too many parties looking for it, and the effects would be devastating if it fell into the wrong hands.
It's somewhat charming that you think my patron's hands aren't the wrong ones. But while he isn't exactly a fount of humanitarian sentiment, I doubt he would use us to hold cities for ransom. A thought occurred to me, and I chuckled. I might have once suspected you of cooking up this entire scheme with Hondo as a way to convince me that I was getting the stone for a song. Or for 2 very long songs. If it weren't for Agrabah. Thank you for that. You saved more than my life that day.
Such beautiful trust. Such appreciation. You see, this is why you're my favorite customer.
Aw, I bet you say that to all your customers.
It's true, I do.
I have enclosed the stone, along with a highly abbreviated account of its origins. We will be arriving at Dathomir too soon for me to summarize every detail, and besides, my hand can only endure so much writing. I've heard tell of enormous and terrible monsters that live on Dathomir, but I am certain of one thing. Nothing I encounter there will be as remarkable as Hondo Onaka's ego. Regards, D.
The only drawback of stealing from Don Karnage is the unfortunate potential of encountering the self-proclaimed infamous pirate and having to listen to his foolish prattle. Clearly the peddler wished to be rid of this crystal quickly, and sold it to you at a fraction of its true worth. I find the magic contained within of a rather trivial nature, but I suppose it could have its uses. In preventing parchment from stirring in a light breeze, perhaps.
This has been The Wonderful World of Darklords. We have no affiliation with Disney or Wizards of the Coast. All music recordings used in this episode are in the public domain and were obtained through museopen.org. Titles and links are in the show notes. Dialogue for Yensid was written by Aslan Rex himself, who you can follow on Tumblr at Darklord Aslan. The Wonderful World of Darklords logo was designed by Haylight Jones. You can find links to their work in the show notes. If you'd like to support the show, you can find us on patreon.com or find our tip jar on Red Circle. Thanks for listening.
You know what? We could decide on this when it actually needs to go out, or like, or when I'm no longer in the conversation to obstruct the solution you're suggesting. Either way, but yeah, I mean, I think in principle this is it, right? But then I see that you want to add this, and that would be fine.
All right.
Well, while I'm somewhere else, while I'm distracted.
Figure it out off mic. I see you. I validate you. I wrote a whole book of nursery rhymes that some of them were good instead of perfect, and it still burns my soul sometimes to look at some of them. Listeners, I'm not going to say which ones because I don't want to point them out to you, but believe me, they're there.
Any of this is going in the episode. I don't think you need to talk to the listeners here, sweetie.
This is going to be an
the world's
outtake.
longest outtake.
This is going to be a really long outtake for the nerds.
This will all be, yeah, I was going to say, this will all be after the outro, which will occur in the middle of the file.
Yes. It'll be 10 minutes after the credits. No, there's certain people that this will be very a fun conversation to listen to.
I'm gonna start dropping that on people, like as they're talking to each other, and be like, "This would be a really fun conversation for some people to listen to."
Yeah, there's certain people this would be a really fun conversation to listen to. So I'd like that acknowledged.